For the December 19th meeting of the Palo Alto Public Art Commission. First is roll call. Vice Chair Shen. Present. Commissioner Miyagi.
Here.
Commissioner Waltuck. Here. Commissioner Smith. Here. Commissioner Stern.
Here.
And Commissioner De La Garza. Here. All right. Well, welcome everyone. This is so exciting to have everybody here. Do we have any, let's see, agenda changes, additions, or deletions?
We have none.
Nadia, is anyone on for public comment?
No one in attendance, unfortunately.
Anyone here? Public comments? No. Okay, we had attached to these, to the agenda, the meeting minutes from November 21st. Does anyone have any questions or concerns, or can I have approval of the minutes, a motion to approve them?
So moved.
I second.
Thank you. Commissioner Waltuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shen,
Yes.
Commissioner De La Garza,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
and me. Yes, we all approved the minutes from our November 21st meeting. Moving on to our city official comments.
Okay, and we have some fresh eye candy for you. Which one are we starting with, Nadia? Okay. So here's an installation image from earlier this week. The artwork by Urban Rock Studios going into Bulware Park. And do we have any finished images as well?
You know what I mean?
The rendering, it really does. Yep. Mhm. That's it. That's the piece. So it's there. The park is still, as you can see, very much a work in progress. So it's not open to the public for a couple more months probably, but the artwork is installed and it looks really great. We also have our open calls for artists to expand our mural artist roster and for artists who want to apply for our pre-qualified public artist pool, which we will be using for the next 2 years. We've already gotten a really great response on social media, so that's fantastic. So help spread the word. And I also wanted to let you all know that the contract with A3 Immersive was approved by council on consent earlier this month. So we're really excited about moving that projection mapping project forward. And we're planning to bring A3 Immersive here to a meeting in January so they can give a presentation and field any questions you might have about the process. And that is it for staff comments.
Can I ask a question about the Bulware Park? Is that going to inhibit that? I mean, because the artwork is there, just like doing the grass and everything around it, is that going to have an impact on putting the park together?
So there isn't going to be grass in that immediate area. So there are going to be some boulders and some DG that goes around it. And it's surrounded by pathways. So that area isn't a grass area.
I actually had the same kind of question. Why is that installed so much more earlier than the rest of the park?
That's unfortunately just the way the timing worked out. So we're hopeful that it will be okay because the barricades are there. And so the concrete should go in and it should be fine. But it was fabricated and ready to go and we had delayed it and stored it as long as we could. And this was our window to get it done.
Is the park actually delayed in its construction?
It has been a bit behind schedule.
Great questions, and thanks for showing us that installation. That's great. Let's move on to our action item, code art. Elise, do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Sure. So we have heard several times over years, from visitors who've come to Code Art and said, I had no idea, or I just saw it as this little calendar listing, it would be great to to know more, to have heard more in advance. So the idea is that we would bring in the professional services of this publicity team to supplement what the city does. So they can have the bandwidth to do more targeted outreach, to get radio and TV spots, and really assist us in getting that coverage that we're really seeking out there.
This is a great code art to really step it up a bit, I think, given that we are really investing in this one and want to get as many people here as possible, and also because it's longer in duration than we've had in the past. Does anyone have any comments about this?
Have we worked with this group before, or has Palo Alto?
So we found them through the Art Center Foundation. They did a bunch of the publicity for the last Clay and Glass Festival and really got some great coverage and placement for them. And so that's when we started asking them, hey, what did you do for the Art Center? And we need a smaller package of that, but we need some of that targeted outreach. So that's how we found them.
Since they use them for the festival, is there a comparison as to the turnout before or after this PR firm?
That's a great question, but I do not have that information. I can look into that.
Okay, I think this is an important item. Is anyone interested in making a motion to get this passed? I move that. Oh, sorry about that. I move that we allocate funds in the amount of $10,500 to engage the professional services of Mega Sugato for publicity for code art.
I second.
I will look for yay or nay from Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shen,
Yes.
Commissioner Waltuck,
Yes.
Commissioner De La Garza,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
and Commissioner Stern.
Yes.
Thank you. It has been approved. Moving on to non-action items, the beautiful frescoes at the Roth Building.
So Nadia's going to take the lead on this, but as we announced at the last meeting, the conservators have left the building. So the color frescoes are restored. You can see them here. And we do have a report from the conservators, and Nadia's here this evening and will walk you through sort of broad picture what all was accomplished in their scope of work.
Yes, thank you so much, Elise. Yeah, we're very excited to make this informational report to the commission because, although physically, I guess, conservators were on site to work on the frescoes just for just a little bit over a month. It's been in the works for years. As you recall, we brought the frescoes to the commission's attention first time in 2016. That's when the frescoes were officially accessioned into the city collection. And really that journey started then when we did initial condition reporting and started looking into sort of like figuring out the path forward. So the frescoes that you're looking at, they're located in downtown, 300 Homer Avenue. It's the site of the original Palo Alto Medical Clinic, PAMF. The building was erected in 1932, and that same summer, artist Viktor Arnatov created this beautiful artwork in August 1932, just before the opening of the clinic. So the artwork is comprised of two registers of frescoes at the main entry to the building. So the upper register consists of 4 larger vertical color panels depicting techniques of modern medicine. And by modern, I mean early 20th century. The lower register is comprised of 8 smaller horizontally oriented panels in grisaille technique, or the black and white, and they have this effect. They're meant to look like they're chisels in stone, in granite in our case. So it's 8 of those panels. Additionally, there is a narrow grisaille panel above the entrance door. It's not visible on this picture. And 4 sepia-toned medallions. You see 2 of those on the portico wall at the entry to the loggia. So back in 2019, in collaboration with the History Museum, then former director, we drafted a grant. And we were fortunate to get the grant. Then due to the pandemic, and also just delays with the overall construction and so on, the construction works on the building did not start until September 2023. By September 2023, like I said, we had done a lot of work to evaluate the condition of the frescoes. We started working with conservators and Rosenthal, who is an expert on Diego Rivera and Arnautoff frescoes. Arnautoff was an apprentice and right hand of Diego Rivera. He learned the trade from Rivera in Mexico, and then came here, and actually the Palo Alto Commission was his first private commission before he went on to work on Coit Tower, right?
So I was just going to suggest that perhaps you take just a second to give a brief explanation as to what frescoes are and how they're different than murals, so that there's a deeper understanding of what we're looking at, or anyone who may watch the meeting later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. It's the information bias on my part. So what is the difference between frescoes and just murals painted on the surface of the wall? So the frescoes are actually painted into the wet plaster of the wall. So they really just become part of the wall, and that explains the longevity of that media. Frescoes in Pompeii have been discovered, and they're just as vibrant and colorful as when they were painted over 2,000 years ago. Of course, Renaissance frescoes all over Europe, and but that's a different technique, so it's very technical, because besides being a painter, you need to understand sort of the chemistry behind just putting together a nice, robust, limestone plaster. You create cartoons, then transfer them onto the wall, and then the painting work of creation of the fresco begins. It's a really fascinating, very complex project, understanding the chemistry of different pigments. It's also, super important. And, somebody made a comment before the meeting, how vibrant, the colors are. And it's really incredible, because when the conservators completely, cleaned the surface of these frescoes and just brought them back to the original sort of state, it was just really phenomenal to see the hand of the artist, the brush stroke. And then they started filling in the losses and working with the material. But what you observe in the visuals of the report, the after treatment photos, it's really the true hand of the artist. So it's really amazing. Like, until they started cleaning off those later on treatments, they didn't realize how much more there was in painting than they first had considered, like during the sort of on-site evaluations with the naked eye. So anyhow, Right. So under the agreement, this agreement, the conservators' scope was to fully restore the four color upper register frescoes, and also the Versailles fresco over the entrance door, and also an in-depth study and further testing of the lower register Versailles frescoes, because just because where they're located, and also just the nature of the medical facility and how it was used. And, it's only 90 years old, but you can say it's already 90 years old, right? So just due to many different factors, those lower register frescoes are in more fragile condition. And that's why we had to sort of like stage and phase out their scope. So I'll be talking and just kind of slowly going through the images in this presentation. So you will see the detailed images of each of the four color frescoes, and before and after treatment, and just some detailed shots, just really showing the difference in extents of their conservation work, right? So the conservators and Anne Rosenthal also worked with her colleague Kiernan Graves, who came from Southern California and was working on site along and she's also very experienced specialist in the world of frescoes. She travels all over the world and works on in Europe and other parts to like really work on very incredible and significant projects. So it's really fortunate that we got the best specialists in the field to work on the Palo Alto project. Right. So just the extent of the detail, you can see how the floor and the feet, there's a lot of losses, scratches, cuts, there was a lot of graffitis. And once the conservators stripped everything back, got rid of all the sort of like non-authentic in painting, they were able to very gently fill in and really just return the work to its original look and feel. Again, another example of second color frescoes, big scratches. This one had a lot of different names and lines like keyed in, and there were lots of losses. So just again, some like close-up images of just the treatment. It's really phenomenal just to see the brightness and depth of the color, the very thin, small like brush stroke that the artist used. It's really incredible. Right, so you can see there's a lot of losses in that particular area and how it looks now after the treatment. What you can see on the lower left, in the lower left corner, all this white sort of blanched out area. So that was a result. So we know of three previous treatments that took place on that site. The first one was most likely done by Arnatov, because we actually found some receipts from that conservation project in the late 50s. The second one happened in the late 60s when the artist actually immigrated back to the Soviet Union after his wife tragically died here. And so we suspect that was actually that blanched area was the result of that treatment. But what happened, the pigments, the colors that were used over time just essentially separated, and the way the light like is reflected in the surface, it just, the eye, we see it as this white area, right? So it's really fascinating. We learned so much, like in terms of like the chemistry and all the technical principles that take place in such projects. It's really fascinating. The last treatment that we know of, but it's interestingly the most mysterious conservation work that took place. In 1980, before the clinic was celebrating its 50th anniversary. And so we suspect that's when it was just a very drastic and extensive, conservation treatment that took place. And I'm still looking for more information, archives, because the more we know, the more informed we are, just in terms of preservation and future treatments of these artworks. Right. So besides, this complete conservation of the upper frescoes, the conservators also worked and conducted further tests and studies for the grisaille frescoes to, first of all, understand what's underneath, what are some of the materials and elements that were applied onto the surface of those frescoes that led to pretty extensive sort of change of the look of the imagery, and how to bring it back to its original state. So those 8 panels are in various degree of sort of condition, but the conservators really did some really fascinating in-depth analysis. As a matter of fact, they were able to collaborate with some specialists in Florence, in Italy. And so the conservation scientists sent us some really brand new state-of-art, cleaning solvents that are not even available in the United States yet. So they're like nanogels. They don't really exist in America yet. And so they were able to test those materials and see how they would remove those non-authentic layers. And we have 2 very detailed reports on both of those treatments. So they brought another specialist from LA. We see him here, and he's a forensic chemist and art conservator, which is it's such a unique niche. So again, best people worked on our project. And yeah, some of the materials. So it's the plaster surrounding the panels was also repaired by the conservators. And of course, their work on site had to be coordinated with the overall scope of the construction activities of the site. It was just a very complex, comprehensive schedule, from roof to walls to the interior. Seismic reinforcements had to go in. So it was just kind of like a jigsaw puzzle of its own, just to work around everybody's schedule, make sure that the conservators come in when all the dusty activities are, behind us. Before the conservators were able to come on site, we spent so many hours at the Roth in any weather, just cleaning, protecting, just do whatever needs to be done to, preserve and protect these valuable artworks. And now with the construction project almost concluded, I have to say that we're so happy with how the loggia looks. So earlier in November, we were finally able to remove the chain link fence that was sort of covering up the loggia, and that fence was there for 25 years. We're talking about a quarter of a century. So just to see that fence removed, it was very transformative, experience, and it's all coming along. The painters, again, in collaboration with us, wrapping up, repainted the external areas, the walls of the loggia. Then conservators came in and cut it in around. So they look fabulous right now. We were able to submit our grant reimbursement reports earlier this month. We're waiting back, but we're very optimistic because, we were doing it in consultation with that team. Yes, and just can't wait to bring you on to the site and really just give you a tour. So it's a very important work, not just locally, but on a national level. So I think Palo Alto is just so fortunate to have this treasure in our city collection. So yes, thank you.
Congratulations. What a labor of love. I just wanted to make an observation because this is such an important and valuable work. And being that it's obviously public art and therefore publicly accessible, are there sort of, I don't know, some type of security or protection to protect against like graffiti, like some of the damages that we've had to cure and like chips and stuff like that?
That is a common question that we've gotten a lot. The answer is they've been in the wild this long that they really need to stay out. Putting them behind plexi can also unintentionally create a microclimate that can further compromise the fresco. So they're like a living organism that also has to breathe. So they have cameras out there, they have lights out there. There will be staff in the building at some point, but of course it is a moment of vulnerability. So right now there is a fence in place. But yeah, those are all things that we definitely think about.
Yeah. And I wasn't thinking that we put it behind plexi, but it's just sometimes you go to, galleries, museums, and you
Sure.
see people always kind of rope things off a little bit so that at least it's not immediately directly accessible to a marker or something like that. And I think just sort of roping it off a little bit creates a little bit of distance and protection, but only if that's appropriate for this context.
Nadia, thank you for that very much. And I think some people already said that this is beautiful. These are beautiful, the restoration. A couple of questions that I have. Was there any actual painting done, or was it mostly just all cleaning of the frescoes? Because the paint actually was mixed in with the medium when it was first put up. So, and then with the present day pollutants and all that other stuff, climate change, do you foresee within 10 or 15 years or so that they may have to be retouched again to keep that the brilliance of those pieces?
Yeah, thank you, Ben, for these questions. So we, as part of the final conservation reports, the conservators also put together maintenance and care plan for the frescoes. And yes, there will need to be regularly brushed and cleaned, and we will have conservators coming back and just evaluating, conditioning the frescoes and doing what needs to be done. In general, especially those color panels, they're in very sound condition. They're considered to be still young frescoes, so that chemical bonding reaction in the back, within the plaster is still taking place. But yes, we do have a maintenance plan in hand, to address that. To answer your first question, yes, the conservators were indeed in painting. They were using, the latest state-of-the-art, best practices in painting under losses. And essentially, it's watercolor-based pigment, and the way they matched the color was really incredible to observe. It's very precise, just very detailed work, but they were in painting and using some watercolor.
With new plaster.
No, they were not the plaster is excellent. The plaster did not need to be replaced. It's really just whatever scratches were there before. They're really on the surface of the plaster, but they're no like deep gouges or anything. That some of the plaster had to be replaced, stucco rather, like outside of the image panels themselves. The quality of the plaster is just phenomenal. They really noted how skillful that plaster was who worked with Arnatov. It's just incredible.
So the watercolor they're using can be absorbed by the old plaster and.
No, it will just stay on the surface. Yeah, but it's just the texture and sort of like the relief of in painted areas. They're just matched perfectly. You can never tell that it was touched up.
So part of what the conservators are really looking to do also is that everything can be reversible
Yes.
and is well documented. So we know exactly what was used and where. Every little mark, I think some of those diagrams Nadia had up earlier, everything's documented. So we know exactly what was masked in, painted, any of that.
Can I just add, this is really exciting. 30 years ago, we had a neighborhood group initiative to deal with the SOFA plan as Palo Alto Medical Foundation was moving to El Camino. And there were a whole bunch of things that we tried to achieve, and we were told that we were way overshooting. Trying to get a 2-acre park and historic preservation and childcare and affordable housing. And much to the credit of what was then Palo Alto Medical Foundation, which was still the independent, not part of Sutter. They had a real strong community commitment and did all those things. And the city did not want to own the Roth building, which was the original building of the medical foundation. And it took a lot of community pressure to get them to own it. And then we had a city council for a long time who didn't want to invest anything in it. And so about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, started turning that around. And the History Museum had been chugging along, but they couldn't really make the progress without the city being a partner. But we were, at the time, 30 years ago, it was, I hadn't known these, and they were known but underappreciated in the community, and they are right up to now. But we got schooled that this is, in all likelihood, this is not only the most significant public art in Palo Alto, but I can't think of anything on the peninsula more significant than this. And maybe there is, I just can't think of it. It's that significant. And so this maybe is really going to be a cornerstone for the public art we have. And I think the community has heard about it, but I just think it just hasn't quite sunk in and really been communicated. So it really might be exciting.
We went with the conservators to visit some of their fresco sites and of course toured Coit Tower. But I think San Francisco is the closest.
That's right.
And just another interesting side note too, when these were first installed, it was highly controversial public art. There were physicians who just thought, I am not going to work in this building that has bare breasts on the front of it. I'm not going. There was, there's an article somewhere, I'm sure you've seen it too, about cars lined up Homer to have a peek at the at the show. But it started out, it was highly, highly controversial. And so it's really fun to bring them back and restore them and show them in their original glory. And hopefully they will be embraced and beloved the way they should have been initially.
And the building itself on several levels is very historic. So it's one of Burge Clark's best buildings. It was the founding building of Palo Alto Medical Foundation, which created the specialized family clinic in communities. I don't know the whole story on that, but for nationwide, they were the first to have this kind of medical model. And the co-founder was Burge Clark's sister, who nearly 100 years ago was a co-founder of Palo Alto Medical Foundation. And so she's very historic for that as well. So 3 dimensions and the building itself.
So you answered so many of the questions that I was going to ask. I was going to ask when the Palo Alto Medical Foundation moved out. So you said 30 years ago?
Yeah, almost, well, yeah. The move out was just about 30, yeah.
And then from that time, when did Palo Alto own the building?
Once we completed the deal of the SOFA plan, so in 97, 98.
And does Palo Alto Medical Foundation feel any, not ownership, but any connection now?
Not that I've heard, and they really are Palo Alto Medical Foundation in name. They're a division of Sutter.
Yeah.
The whole philosophy has changed. They were very progressive and committed to the community. And it's really, they're even taking their name, the Palo Alto Medical Foundation, and for the peninsula, naming that under that moniker. just because it carried cachet. It's not
nothing.
related. But I was thinking about who might know more is Jay Thorwaldson, who was editor of the Weekly, and long time before that, he was a reporter at the Palo Alto Times, and they folded. Then he went to the Medical Foundation, was director of community and government affairs, and is really somewhat of a Palo Alto historian himself. And
Yep.
if have folks reached out to Jay?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And another interesting tidbit is if you go to the current Palo Alto Medical Foundation and drive up in that sort of upper deck, there are little roundels where they have recreated portions of the frescoes there. If you look up, there are little blue roundels.
And I know this is just a really cool project, and I love that we have funds that you guys wrote a grant for. That's really great. But it's been a ton of work. So thank you so much, because you guys have stuck with this project, and it has, like you said, since 2016. And it's been a big project, a lot of work. So thank you.
It's a big project, and we still need to address what we're gonna do with the lower Versailles panels. So those panels unfortunately are highly compromised. We have a few theories on that, but some of that is also they're below windows. And so whatever window solution they were using to clean was just coming down. Those are the ones that are the most compromised. And those are the ones that also have more severe painting, and some of those reinterpretations had some creative license. So looking at the original photographs and things that we got from the Smithsonian Institution and comparing it to what was there now, there was some creative license because it was so lost at some point. So a lot of that plaster has been compromised. And so we're speaking to the conservators, trying to come up with what is the next step. So part of it is done, but we also still need to think about the interpretation and treatment of those lower Versailles panels.
These are so fabulous and I can't wait to see them. But is there anything is there anything in place to have an opening with the general public, or some kind of press release or something to like really put these on the map?
So in the construction meeting today, I did hear a loose, maybe May soft opening. It's probably a moving target, but that's what I've heard so far. So stay tuned. We'll definitely let you know.
If we drive by now, it's outdoors, right? Like, can we like see it?
You will see the
because of-
medallions and tops, top parts of the color panels. There's a temporary sort of construction green fence in front of the frescoes, in front of the lodge, just to, kind of like keep people away, because there's still a lot of construction activities happening in the courtyard and around the building. So I think the construction team prefers people to like stay out, but soon. Absolutely.
They're going to be doing some soft tours and
Yes.
right after first of the year, and I think they'd be glad to.
We'll keep you posted for sure.
I've got a question or a comment. Nadia, congratulations. I could tell the way you speak, it's such a passionate project for you, and you've approached it with such love. It's obvious. So I have a couple questions about the grisaille panels. So they weren't treated at all, just to see like what they could be treated with in the
So
future?
they were cleaned.
Oh, they were cleaned.
In fact, most of them were cleaned in different parts of, each panel was cleaned to a different degree to understand what's underneath, because the topography of sort of the images is very varied. There are different like different different surfaces of the same panel had very different sort of elements on it. And, like 1 square inch, a certain sort of approach and treatment was appropriate, and it was not, the same, just a few inches away. So, and to Elisa's early comment, it's due to probably a much further deterioration of those in the past. And we suspect that whoever took the liberty or artistic freedom to sort of recreate the imagery of those lower panels. Most likely they did not have the source images that we were able to retrieve from Smithsonian archives. And they were just going off perhaps memory and also the incisions, of the cartoons that were still visible. So they're very crude compared to, the original images that we were just shocked how beautiful they were when we first retrieved them. And it was really a key to the success of this conservation treatment, because the conservators were really blind. You don't you can't see everything, so having those sort of reference images like those resources was really key to us. So yeah, there's still a lot of fascinating work to be done. We were able to research so much about this commission. There's no scholarship about this particular commission. There's more information that can be found in books published about other Arnatov projects, of course Koi Tower being the most significant one. There's no scholarship about this project, so we need to document this for future generations, because it's our responsibility to really keep this project alive for I hope many centuries go into the future. And yeah, it's been really a project of love. The artist is he was an immigrant to this country. He came from the same region where my family is. Like, there's so many sort of serendipitous connections that I feel with him, and it's been just I don't know, a blessing to work so close with his artworks.
And interpret some of the original material.
Yeah, and I just a lot of notes were in Russian, so that came handy.
I'd love to know the history of the funding too, where the grant was from, and how you all approached that. I mean, whoever did that was, well, you said 8 years ago or something.
I wonder, how sometimes we get, we do some projects and we receive recognition. I think the Palo Alto Public Art program has received national recognition for certain type of projects. And I wonder if this may not be an opportunity, because I love the story of the original artist and sort of the project, the restoration done in your hand. I mean, that has a lot of resonance for me to see, what is our role as a public art custodian, in essentially not just creating more public arts for the future, but safeguarding and bringing them back and preserving. And this has a lot of resonance with the story of Palo Alto 90 years ago, 100 years ago. All the different characters, including yourself, I think should be documented. The story should be told. And I think will reflect very well for the community of Palo Alto.
Yes, thank you. We feel the same way, that the story should be told. It is a fascinating story of this project. The grant, yes, of course. So that grant, we applied for that grant back in 2019. It's through the County of Santa Clara Parks and Recreation Department. They have an ongoing grant program. So the grant that we applied for the frescoes, unfortunately, was a one-time grant, because, of course, I was like, can we apply for more funding? We still have more work to do. And that was a one-time grant. We're exploring other opportunities, looking into federal, private grants. So there's work to be done. These frescoes are registered as I guess it's like they have a designation of a local historic artistic significance. It would really help us if these artworks were indeed registered and recognized as artworks of national significance, because it really opened our arms to apply for federal grants. And so we'll be exploring all of these avenues, but there's definitely more work to be done. Yeah, for sure. The grant was, so we received the grant for $105,000, and it was a 50% match grant. So the city fulfilled the other part, and the contract with the conservators was, if I'm right, about 118,000, but we had other expenses associated with, erecting the physical protections of the frescoes, we had, vibration monitoring sensors installed. We had to have, battery sources, independent from the building. The building did not have power for the first year, just small things that, these works demanded. But so it's adds up.
That is great. And I love all the images too. Thank you so much. I can't wait till they're unveiled to the public. Public letters? Nope. Okay, any commissioner questions, comments, or announcements? Well, I will call the meeting to an end then. We are adjourned. Thank you all for attending. It's so great to see everyone here. Full commission. Thanks. Happy holidays.